I started seeing tattoos at a very young age, growing up around gangbanging. That's what I saw, growing up in
Mhm.
California, and my cousins were covered in it. They were doing it themselves. And honestly, even like Guns N' Roses or like rock bands that were also covered in tattoos, they always called my attention. There was lots of it growing up in Southern California, and it was attractive to me. I liked it. I always liked art as it was. Any art galleries, paintings, art books called my attention quite a bit, comic books, and it all kind of just came together for me.
Good evening, and welcome to Art After Dark, where you get to learn all about arts and culture in West Texas, and I get to live out my Dick Cavett fantasy. My name is Randy Ham. I am privileged to be the executive director for Odessa Arts. And tonight we're going to start talking about a different kind of art than we normally cover in Art After Dark. You've heard us talk about theater, you've heard us talk about jazz music, you've heard us talk about visual art, but one part of visual art that we haven't really covered, and I mean covered, and that is tattoos. For the next few episodes, we've got some fantastic tattoo artists right here in the Permian Basin, many of them who are also visual artists, and you can see their work in their studios. Tonight, we're going to talk to the artist known as Sevyr. Sevyr, thank you for being on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to start with the very simple questions. What got you into tattoo art, and when did that happen?
Um, I guess it's a pretty simple answer. I started seeing tattoos at a very young age, growing up around gangbanging. That's what I saw, growing up in
Mm.
California, and my cousins were covered in it. They were doing it themselves. And honestly, even like Guns N' Roses or like rock bands that were also covered in tattoos, they always called my attention. There was lots of it growing up in Southern California, and it was attractive to me. I liked it. I always liked art as it was. Any art galleries, paintings, art books called my attention quite a bit, comic books, and it all kind of just came together for me as a
So,
whole.
so you were able to see a correlation between the art that you were seeing, like on the pages of a book or on a wall of a gallery, to the art that you could put on your body.
Well, I most definitely saw the separation between all the mediums, but I appreciated them all equally. I didn't see a line. I didn't matter to me. It didn't, like my elders would tell me stuff like, well, this is for rich people. This is for these kind of people. And I
Hmm.
didn't see the difference. To me, it was all just art. I cared about it all equally. I delved into it all equally, explored all of them. Any medium I ever seen that caught my attention, I made sure to get the tools one way or another and explore that.
So, how old were you when you got your first tattoo?
16.
16? All right. Okay. Do you remember where? Do you know where?
Yeah, it
Okay.
was it was here on my shoulder. I already covered it. I was 16, but my first tattoo was my first tattoo, is what I always say, because I did my first tattoo on myself.
Oh,
And that was
wow.
the first tattoo I had ever done.
Okay. So, at what point did you start thinking of it moving away from being a hobby and more about being a profession? Like, I'm going to be a tattoo artist.
I mean, I have so much fun doing what I'm doing. I don't think I've gotten there yet. I'm still doing my hobby.
Well, that's a good
But
thing.
I get to
Yeah.
get paid for it, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? To me, if I had a different profession, which I did do a lot of things. I was in a very serious kitchen for like 4 years. I was a truck driver for like 7 years. I did a lot of different things, but I was always painting and tattooing at the same time
Okay. So,
on all my free time.
so those both developed simultaneously, your painting and your
Absolutely.
tattoo art.
Absolutely.
How does your visual art, your painting, inform the way that you do tattoos? And can you see a development in your tattoo technique over the years from 16 to now?
I like to try to have a very different style in the two. When I'm doing a painting, I paint very, like, my paintings can be very colorful, whereas on skin I specialize in black and gray. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? And on like on paintings, I'll get very graphic, very almost comic book style. I actually paint a lot of comic book images, whereas tattooing, I'm chasing more like picture realism, landscapes, lettering, very, very different style.
Okay, so you really keep them kind of separate and they don't
I
really
do like
blend
to.
together. So this is the second or third time you've mentioned comic books, and I am a comic book nerd. So what got you into comics?
The
Or
art,
which comic was your first comic?
oh, that's a tough one to remember because I liked all of them. Some of them were too like almost like demonic, creepy for my mom to buy for me. She was a bit religious, but like I loved Spawn, Carnage, all the really aggressive ones. I really
Right.
liked them a lot. Ghost Rider. But the first ones I remember having would be like Spider-Man, Silver Surfer,
Yeah.
Batman. Batman was one of my big favorites. And I'm not much of a comic book nerd. I never got to the part where I would read them. I was just
You just
obsessed
looked at
with
the
the
art.
images, yeah.
Okay.
Because at that point I was born in Mexico, and at that point I didn't understand American sass yet, American humor. You know, a lot of the stuff I
Sure.
was reading, I was, what does this mean? Or the order in which it was, I don't know. I was just not Americanized enough, I feel like. And then I just never gained interest in reading them. After that, the images were enough for me.
But you were able to use those images and kind of make up your own story based on the images you were looking at?
Well, it's not like I was drawing comics. I would just draw a picture. You know, like,
Okay.
all right, this picture really appeals to me. I'm going to
Mhm.
duplicate it.
Right. Well, it's interesting. So you were born in Mexico. You mentioned Southern California. You also, in some discussions we've had, you've talked about your time in Arizona,
Right.
in Phoenix. So kind of talk me through your geographic journey that led you to the Permian Basin. How did you get here?
It's been a bit of a journey. So I was born in Mexico. Don't ever remember living there. By the time I was like 6 months, we already ended up in California. By the time I was 11, we ended up in Anthony, New Mexico, which is only like 10 minutes from El Paso, Texas.
Yeah.
And as we moved up, that's where we ended up was El Paso, Texas. I took off to St. Louis, Missouri by myself for like a year. Colorado another year, came back, hung out in El Paso for like another 4 or 5 years, give or take. That's when I ended up in Arizona. Came back to El Paso. That's always been my home base. And then I started doing guest spots over here in the tattoo world. You have the opportunity that if you reach out to a tattoo shop owner, you let them know, hey, I'm gonna be in your city these and these days. Do you have an extra chair that I can sit in?
Yeah.
And it's beneficial for both the shop owner and the artist. Most of the time, they're gonna say yes if you have good work to offer. And that ended up working out for me. There's money to be made out here in the Permian Basin,
Yeah.
and it was very promising. I couldn't look away from it. You know, it was a really good opportunity for me, and here I am now. 4 years later, I opened up my own shop, opened up another in Hobbs, New Mexico. So West Texas has been pretty good to me
Well,
and my
I
family.
can definitely see that in your shop, and your shop is unique in that it is also an art gallery because you walk in and you see so much visual art represented on the walls from all of are all of your artists that are in the shop, are they also visual artists?
Absolutely, it's a requisite in a sense. Like you have to be able to create something. You know, like there's a lot of tattooers that are just tattooers, not tattoo artists.
Mhm.
Meaning they're really good at copying. I can copy this, copy that, copy that. They don't have a specialty. They don't draw on their time off, and that just doesn't interest me quite as much. You got to be really good for me to look past that. But yes, everybody at the shop very much creates. If you go and you notice wherever anybody's toolbox is, the art above it is that artist's work.
Well,
So everything that's hanging has been painted in house or was gifted to us by a very close friend.
and is the art in the shop for sale as well?
Depends on the artist.
Ah.
Yeah, it depends on the artist, but most of it is like only one of the guys at the shop, my buddy Onyx, he's got a price tag by all his pieces that are for sale, but
Yeah.
I mean, we all can constantly create and everybody's here to make money at the end of the day. I'm sure everything's got a price tag on it, you know?
Well, sure, sure. Everybody can part with something for the right price.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Uh, I've noticed too that, your shop has been participatory in First Fridays for a really long time, but you've also had some events off of First Friday days, and you just recently had one not too long ago. Talk a little bit about that. What was it like, and what did you do, and how did the community respond?
We did do an event, and it was a very successful turnout. It was a art show slash rave
Mhm.
party. So from like 6 to 10, we had the doors open for everybody to come see the art. We cleared out all the excuse me, all the toolboxes, all the massage tables, everything. We cleared out the entire floor so that everybody could just walk around and see all the art that was hanging. Come 10 o'clock at night, and the DJ showed up, started putting up the speakers, turntables, everything, and everything that was open was a dance floor. It was really cool. We didn't sell anything, but I mean, to me, that's all right. We still had a really good turnout.
Right?
We had a lot of fun. We got to mingle with the entire community. I don't know. To me, that means a lot. So, as far as what you were saying with First Fridays, it always meant a lot to me. And I told my wife ever since the beginning, whenever First Fridays ever sparks up right here, I want to be a big part of it because when I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, I lived right in downtown, right in the heart of First Fridays, as a matter of fact. It was like a 5 minute walking distance where everything was really, really popping off. And it just meant a lot to me. I did live painting down there almost every weekend that I could. If I
Mhm.
could land a gig, I was there painting. And it's fun. It's awesome. I feel like people love it. I would love to be
Yeah.
part of it here, and that's what we're striving for. That's what I'm always pushing for.
Well, we've been really happy to have you as part of the First Friday movement, and it's really great to see it expand even outside of the downtown footprint. And your studio has been one of the anchor points for that, and so that's been fantastic for us. You talked a little bit about the tattoo artist community and how you can travel to another city and find a chair, and uh, so something that I have seen just from the outside here is how supportive I have seen the different studios be with each other. Like, not treating it as so much of a competition. You're all artists. In moving here, from the outside, how have you seen the tattoo artist community in the Permian Basin? What's been your um, impression?
I mean, there's a couple people who don't take to it, like, oh, the outsiders, but I always try to break that barrier. And for instance, another event that we'll do is we'll do art nights. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, we're having one on the 11th. If you
Okay.
guys want to show up,
All
come drink
right.
coffee, drink a drink, whatever.
Yeah.
We're always hanging out there, chit chatting, good music, live art. Um, I always reach out to
Mm-hmm.
all the other shops. Everybody that's been cool with me has respected me, and they have come by before. For instance, La Familia has came by, Little Dragons has came by. When Bad Omen was just still a thing, they all came by, and it's a good turnout. It gets good, just a bunch of artists
Yeah.
sharing information, painting together, sharing a laugh, sharing a drink.
Well,
But yeah, as long as you reach out, a lot of people think that because at the end of the day, most tattooers are a bunch of bikers and knuckleheads and pirates and what have you. So a lot of people think that it's gonna be different, but I've driven to people's shops. Hey,
mm-hmm.
you know what? We're gonna have art night this day, blase blase. Y'all should come by. And once they see that, I mean, what's there left to think? Obviously, I'm trying to be friends with everybody.
Sure. Well, more art is better than less art. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter who's making
absolutely,
the art. We all succeed. The more art is accessible to the public, the more everybody succeeds. You
absolutely.
know, uh, so what would you say to somebody who has yet to get their first tattoo? Like, somebody that's just thinking about it and, like, either has a complete and utter fear of needles, guilty, or somebody else that is thinking about doing a tattoo on their body for the first time. What would you what would you say to them?
I would say our moms are already disappointed enough already anyway. No, no, I'm just no, I mean, if you really wanna get it, I never thought about it twice, it hurts,
Mhm.
but only until the pain goes away,
Sure.
it's
Like a
it's
lot
not.
of things in life, it
Yeah,
hurts until
yeah,
the pain goes
exactly,
away.
exactly.
Yeah, that's
Most things worth doing are always hard anyway, so
sure.
it does suck,
Sure.
getting a tattoo does suck, it does hurt, I'm not gonna lie, but but it's worth having it. I don't like getting
Right.
tatted, but I love being tatted,
Right.
you know?
Right. Is there a particular tattoo you've given to someone else or one that you have that you're especially proud of, or that the work itself that you step back from it, you look at it and you're like, oh God, that's some of my best work.
I mean, I strive for that in every tattoo. That's how I want to feel about every tattoo I do. So that being said, yeah, there is a lot of tattoos I hand over. For instance, we have quite the team of girls at the shop, and I feel like they have a very delicate hand. So when it comes to something very fine line, I always like to hand those over. Or we have everybody that specializes in something different. The floral, the fine line, realism, lettering. We try to put everything where it belongs instead of just jumping at the
Right.
money.
So you pair the right artist with the right
Absolutely.
customer. Uh, let's talk a little bit about your visual art, your painting. So, when did you do your first painting?
Oh man, I must have been like 17 when I first really completed something that I considered okay, that's a piece of art, not just me like slapping paint on a surface and experimenting.
Mm-hmm. So you've been doing it almost as long as you've been doing the tattoos.
Well, I mean, I've been
And
drawing longer than that. That
well,
was just the first thing that I considered a painting, but as far as like color pencils and markers and stuff like that, I had already put stuff together long before that.
did did you start painting with an idea that it was something that you were going to sell, or did you start painting for yourself?
I started painting because I had to.
Okay.
I just had to. That's the reason I still paint. That's why a lot of my paintings aren't for sale because I paint very personal. A lot
Okay.
of my stuff has personal meaning to me, and parting ways with it is
Yeah.
not something I really want to do, you know?
So, you you paint primarily just for yourself to get for the images in your head to be out into the world.
Primarily, yes, but that's why now I'm starting to try to do stuff like Carnage or Batman or Venom, stuff like that, because although the process meant a lot to me, getting it done, getting it tackled, the days that I spent with it
Oh,
mean a lot to me. There's not like a hidden message in it that means something to me.
yeah.
And
Well,
that would be easy for me to part ways with for the right price.
all right. Always got to be the right price. Uh,
Absolutely.
well, Severe, I really appreciate you being on the show. I'm a big fan of your work. I love your studio, and I think you've made a real impact in this community. And I hope that you know that.
Awesome.
Um,
Thank you.
so, if I wanted to come visit your studio and I've never been there before, tell the people out there on the internet where they can find you.
We are located at 1500 North Grant Avenue, right on the corner of 15th Street and Grant. Can't miss it. It's a big, great building covered in graffiti art and mural art. Um, yeah, you can't miss it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you
Uh,
for having me.
yeah, tune in next week and we'll talk more with more artists from Severe Shop. Thank you and have a good night.